The gun feels heavier than Deborah remembered. Her hand trembles, not from fear, from 15 years of rage finally finding a target. Across the street, through that brownstone window, her husband laughs. His hand rests on another woman's waist, the same way he used to touch her. Diana, 26, graduate student, the girl who stole her life. Deborah's finger slides to the trigger. She crosses the street. Each step costs her something she'll never get back. The door opens. Diana's face, young, beautiful, clueless, goes white. "Who are you?" Then John appears, steps between them. His eyes lock on the weapon. "Deb, wait." 15 years, she whispers. Her voice cracks like glass. "I gave you everything." In the Mafia, betrayal has one price. John knows it. Diana's about to learn it. But which one of them will pay? The safety clicks off. Before we find out who survives this night, do me a favor, hit that like button right now. Seriously, if you're hooked, if your heart is racing, if you need to know what happens next, show me. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. New York, London, Tokyo, let me know you're here. And subscribe, because trust me, you don't want to miss how this ends. This story gets darker, more twisted, and absolutely devastating. Now, back to Deborah's choice. The morning light filtered through Italian silk curtains, casting golden shadows across marble floors that cost more than most people earned in a year. Deborah Morrison stood at the window of their Hamptons estate, watching her husband's black SUV disappear down the tree-lined driveway. She didn't wave. He wouldn't have looked back anyway. 15 years. 15 years of playing the perfect wife to the East Coast's most feared crime lord. She turned back to the bedroom, their bedroom, though John rarely slept there anymore. The California King was made with military precision, 800 thread count Egyptian cotton pulled tight. Everything in their life looked perfect. That was the point. Deborah descended the spiral staircase, her silk robe whispering against her skin. In the kitchen, she prepared coffee she wouldn't drink and toast she wouldn't eat. Routine, structure, the illusion of normalcy in a world built on blood money and buried secrets. She knew the rules. Never ask where he goes, never question the late-night phone calls, never acknowledge the smell of perfume that isn't yours. Loyalty, respect, silence. The holy trinity of being a Mafia wife. Last night, John canceled dinner again. The reservation at their favorite restaurant wasted. She'd worn the dress he loved, the emerald one that matched her eyes. He texted at 7:47 p.m. Business ran late. Don't wait up. He came home at 3 a.m. She pretended to be asleep. Deborah moved through the house like a ghost, straightening things that were already straight. The antique vases from their anniversary trip to Venice, the crystal glasses they used for important guests, the framed photo of their wedding day, both of them young, hopeful, stupid enough to believe forever. She paused at John's study door. It was slightly ajar, which wasn't like him. He was meticulous about locked doors and secured spaces. Occupational hazard. Inside, sunlight glinted off something on his desk. His phone, his primary phone, the one he never, ever forgot. Deborah's heart stuttered. In 15 years, John had never been careless, never left himself vulnerable. She stepped into the study, her hand already reaching for the device. Something was about to break. She could feel it in her bones. Deborah picked up John's primary phone from the desk, intending to text him about it. But something else caught her eye. His Patek Philippe watch, the one he'd inherited from his father. He always wore it to important meetings, always. She'd have it polished for him, a good wife would. She moved to his desk, opening the top drawer where he kept his cufflinks and tie clips. Not there. She tried the side drawer. Locked. John never locked drawers from her. What was the point? She knew what he was, what he did. But this drawer had a lock. Deborah's pulse quickened. She pulled a hairpin from her chignon, the elegant updo already feeling too tight. Her father had taught her to pick locks when she was 12, a useful skill for a girl born into their world. The mechanism clicked. The drawer slid open. Inside, nestled between business papers, was another phone. Sleek, black, expensive. A second phone. Her hands trembled as she lifted it. The screen illuminated at her touch. No passcode. John never thought she'd find it. The messages loaded. Diana, missing you already. Last night was perfect. Diana, can't stop thinking about you. When can I see you again? Diana, you make me feel alive, baby. I love you. Message after message, hundreds of them, scrolling back weeks, months. Photos loaded next. Diana, honey blonde hair, bright smile, young, so young. Laughing in restaurants Deborah had never been to, wearing jewelry Deborah hadn't received, lying in bed wearing John's shirt, the one Deborah had given him for Christmas. Her stomach lurched. She gripped the desk, knuckles white. This wasn't a mistake, not a one-night slip during a business trip. This was a relationship, a whole separate life. More photos. Diana at a beach house. Diana sleeping. Diana looking at the camera with eyes full of love, the way Deborah used to look at him. A text from 3 days ago. Can't wait to meet you tonight. I found the perfect wine for us. The night he'd canceled their dinner. Deborah's vision blurred. Rage rose like bile in her throat. 15 years. 15 years of silence, of looking away, of being the perfect wife while he played the business of death. And this was how he repaid her loyalty. The phone trembled in her hands. Everything she'd sacrificed, everything she'd endured, for nothing. Deborah sat in the study for 3 hours, the second phone burning in her palm. Every instinct screamed to confront John immediately, to throw the evidence in his face, to watch him scramble for excuses that wouldn't come. But she'd learned patience in this world. Patience was power. She made a call instead. Marco, it's Deborah Morrison. I need a favor, the kind my father used to ask for. Marco Salvetti had worked for her family before she married John. Discreet, thorough, loyal to blood, not marriage certificates. I need everything on a woman named Diana. I'll send you her number. 48 hours later, Deborah sat in a cafe 3 blocks from her estate, a manila folder in front of her. Inside, Diana Reeves, 26, Columbia grad student, Brooklyn brownstone paid for by, she felt sick, a mysterious benefactor. Her entire life printed on 8 pages. Deborah pulled out her phone, navigating to Diana's Instagram. Public profile, of course it was. Photos of avocado toasts and bottomless mimosas, beach vacations in the Bahamas, sunset cocktails on rooftop bars, a life of careless freedom funded by stolen moments with someone else's husband. Diana had no idea what world she'd stumbled into, no idea that loving a man like John Morrison came with a price tag written in blood. The girl was innocent, stupid but innocent. That almost made it worse. Deborah's jealousy twisted with contempt. Diana didn't understand the rules, didn't understand that in their world, loyalty wasn't optional, it was survival. She'd waltzed in with her bright smile and graduate school ambitions, and John had let her. That night, Deborah opened the safe in her dressing room. Behind the jewelry and the cash, she found her father's revolver. Cold, heavy, familiar. She checked the chamber. Fully loaded. Saturday, John had a meeting in the city. She'd already had Marco confirm the truth. He'd be at Diana's brownstone, 7 p.m. Deborah held the gun, feeling its weight distribute across her palm. In 3 days, someone's life would change forever. The only question was whose, and how much blood it would cost. The black Maserati cut through Brooklyn streets like a knife through silk.
Deborah's hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white against black leather. Her father's revolver rested against her thigh, cold through the fabric of her dress. She'd chosen black, for mourning, for war. Diana's brownstone appeared exactly as Marco had described, charming, tree-lined, utterly ordinary. The kind of place where normal people lived normal lives, where graduate students fell in love without consequences. Deborah parked across the street, cut the engine, waited. 7:14 p.m. John's Mercedes pulled up. Not the armored SUV with tinted windows and bodyguards, just his personal car, silver, sleek, vulnerable. He stepped out carrying red roses. Red roses, the same flowers he'd brought Deborah every Friday for the first 5 years of their marriage, before the business consumed him, before she became furniture in their gilded cage. Deborah's breath caught. John walked to the door, knocked. Diana answered, and even from across the street, Deborah could see her face light up, could see the way she threw her arms around him, the way he lifted her slightly, spinning her in the doorway like they were in some romantic movie. Like she weighed nothing, like he was young again. They disappeared inside, but the front window glowed warm, curtains open. Deborah watched. John and Diana in the kitchen, uncorking wine, laughing at something. His hand found her waist, that casual, possessive touch Deborah remembered from another lifetime. Diana said something. John threw his head back, genuinely laughing, unburdened, free. With her, he wasn't the East Coast crime lord, wasn't the man who came home at 3 a.m. with blood under his fingernails. With Diana, he was just a man in love. The roses sat in a vase on the table, red petals catching lamplight. Deborah's hand found the revolver. She watched John pull Diana close, kiss her forehead, whisper something that made her smile. That's what broke her. Not the affair, not the lies. The tenderness, the version of John that used to be hers. Deborah opened the car door. Her heels clicked against pavement. She crossed the street. Each step felt like falling. Behind her, the Maserati's door hung open. She wouldn't need it for the return trip. Deborah knocked. 3 sharp raps that shattered the evening quiet. Footsteps approached. The door opened. Diana stood there, wine glass in hand, smile fading as she registered the stranger in the elegant black dress. "Can I help you?" Deborah raised the gun. Diana's wine glass hit the floor, shattered. Red liquid spread across white tile like blood. "Oh my God! Who is it?" John's voice from inside. Then he appeared behind Diana, and his face went white. Don't." Deborah's voice was ice. "Don't you dare say my name like we're still something." John stepped in front of Diana, hands raised. "Wait, just wait." 15 years. Deborah's hand trembled, but the gun stayed level. 15 years I gave you. I looked away when you came home with blood on your shirts, smiled at your associates while they discussed murder over dinner, never asked questions, never demanded answers. That was our deal, John. Loyalty, respect. "Deborah, please," John's voice cracked. "I stood by you through federal investigations, through rival families trying to kill you, through your father's death and your brother's betrayal. I was your queen, your partner, and this," she gestured at Diana with the gun, "this is how you repay me?" Diana pressed against the wall, sobbing. "I didn't know. He told me, he said he was divorced." "Divorced?" Deborah's laugh was razor sharp. "Sweetheart, men like John don't get divorced, they get widowed." "Deb, listen to me." John's hands were still raised, but he took a step forward. "I felt trapped. The business, the family, the expectations. Diana makes me feel alive. She makes me feel like a person, not just what?" Deborah's voice rose. "Not just the criminal, a killer. That's what you are, John. That's what we are. And in our world, betrayal demands blood. You taught me that." The gun barrel pointed at Diana's chest, then at John's, back to Diana. 3 people, 2 bullets needed, 1 choice.
Don't do this, John whispered. You'll lose everything, your life, your freedom, everything we built. I've already lost everything. Deborah's finger moved to the trigger. The question is, which one of you pays for it?
Time stretched. The gun felt impossibly heavy in Deborah's hand. Kill Diana, the innocent, the girl who didn't know the rules. Kill John, 15 years reduced to a bullet in a body bag. Kill both. Leave no witnesses, no loose ends. Kill neither. Walk away with nothing but her dignity. Please, Diana's voice shattered the silence. Please, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know he was married. He showed me divorce papers. I thought... She choked on a sob. I'll disappear. I'll leave the city. You'll never see me again. Deborah's eyes never left John. He stood between her and Diana, body angled to protect his mistress. Even now, even with a gun pointed at his chest, his instinct was to shield her. That told Deborah everything. Do you love her? The question came out quieter than she intended. John's eyes met hers. He hesitated, just for a second. No. The lie landed between them like a stone. You hesitated. Deborah's voice was arctic. You had to think about it. Deb, don't. She lowered the gun, not out of forgiveness, out of something colder. You know what? You're right. Killing you would cost me everything. My freedom, my life, everything I've built. Relief flooded John's face. Thank you, thank God. But death would be too easy. Deborah's smile was razor sharp, too quick. You'd become a martyr, the great John Morrison, killed by his unstable wife. Your associates would take care of me, and Diana would grieve her tragic love story. She slipped the gun into her purse. No, you wanted a life outside our world, John. You wanted to play house with a graduate student and pretend you're not a monster. Deborah pulled out her phone, started typing. What are you doing? John's voice cracked. Calling your associates, your rivals, everyone who needs to know that the great John Morrison is compromised, distracted, weak. She looked up, that he broke the code for a 26-year-old girl. You wouldn't. In our world, perception is everything, and now everyone will know you're vulnerable. Her finger hovered over send. You'll have nothing in our world, and she, Deborah's eyes cut to Diana, she'll be marked forever. Deborah walked out of the brownstone without looking back. No gunshots, no screams, just the soft click of her heels against pavement and the sound of John shouting her name. She didn't answer. In the Maserati, she pulled out her phone, made the first call. Vincent, it's Deborah Morrison. We need to talk about my husband's recent distractions. By midnight, she'd contacted 5 of John's key associates. By dawn, every family head on the East Coast knew. John Morrison was compromised, distracted by a girl, vulnerable. In their world, vulnerability was a death sentence. The accountant was next. Freeze everything, every account with my name attached. Transfer them to the secondary holdings, the ones only she controlled, the ones her father had made sure existed before he'd agreed to the marriage. Insurance, he'd called it. Then came the most brutal call. Marco, I need Diana Reeves' information distributed, quietly. Let certain people know she's involved with John Morrison. Let them draw their own conclusions. She didn't need to say more. Marco understood. Diana was now a target, a liability, a loose end that John's enemies would exploit. The girl's normal life was over. 48 hours later, John returned to the Hamptons estate. His key didn't work. The locks had been changed. He stood at the door, his door, and rang the bell like a stranger. Deborah didn't answer. Inside, her phone buzzed. Text after text. John's associates, one by one, questioning his leadership, his judgment, his ability to protect the family interests when he couldn't even protect his marriage. We need to discuss the future of the organization. Concerned about recent developments. Time to consider new leadership. John's empire was crumbling. Not from rival families or federal investigations, from a 26-year-old girl and 15 years of broken promises. Diana had already fled Brooklyn. Marco confirmed she'd withdrawn from Columbia, left the city. The brownstones sat empty. She was in hiding now, looking over her shoulder for threats she didn't understand. Living in fear, just like Deborah had. But Deborah's fear was over. She stood at the window, watching John's Mercedes sit in the driveway, watching him make phone calls. Desperate, scrambling. The question now wasn't who would pay for his betrayal. The question was, how much would it cost him before she was done? 2 weeks later, Deborah sat in John's chair. Not the one at home, the real one. The leather throne in the back room of Salvatore's, where the East Coast families made decisions that never appeared in courts or newspapers. Vincent Caruso sat across from her, then Marco, then the heads of 3 other families. "Mrs. Morrison," Vincent began, respect heavy in his voice. "Your proposal regarding the Port Authority contracts?" "Approved," Deborah said. "But we adjust the percentage split, 15%, not 12. No one argued. Her father had trained her for this. While John thought she was planning charity galas, she'd been learning the business, memorizing names, connections, weak points. Every dinner party where she'd smiled and poured wine, she'd been listening, cataloging, preparing. She was never just the pretty wife. She was insurance, leverage, the power behind a throne John thought was only his. Her father had known. Men underestimate elegant women, he told her at 22. Let them, then take everything. The families had accepted her leadership within days. She was her father's daughter, after all. His blood ran truer than any marriage certificate. John watched from outside the restaurant, standing by a car that was no longer his, stripped of power, of money, of respect. The empire he'd built now belonged to the wife he'd betrayed. Diana was gone. Vincent's last report confirmed she'd left New York entirely. New name, new city, new life. Looking over her shoulder at shadows that would follow her forever. Deborah returned to the estate that night. The same house, the same marble floors and silk curtains, but everything had changed. She stood at the window where she'd watched John's SUV disappear 2 weeks ago. Now she watched her own driver wait for her next command. The morning light caught her reflection in the glass. Elegant, powerful, alone. Loyalty had cost her a marriage. Betrayal had cost John everything else. In their world, power wasn't taken, it was earned, planned for, waited for. Deborah smiled at her reflection. He taught me everything about power, she whispered to the empty room. He just forgot I was paying attention. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button. This is just the beginning. Drop a comment. What would you have done in her position? Would you have shown mercy or taken the same path? I read every single comment. And if you're not subscribed yet, you're missing out. Hit that subscribe button because part 2 is coming, and you need to know who just walked into that study. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens.